What's up, everybody? Welcome another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. I am Justin Van Zuiden, aka STL Cardinals 84. As usual, I will be hosting the show for you here tonight. And whenever you may be listening, some of you might be listening in the morning on your way to work. However you might be consuming the show, we appreciate you checking us out. A little bit later than normal tonight. We've got a new co-host, and I had a software computer issue right before showtime. It always seems like those things happen at the worst possible time, but we're back up, we're fired up, we're good to go. And I got Jacob Horton, aka Hondizzle, with me this week. So hey, thanks for filling in on short notice. Appreciate it. And how you been?
Good. Always glad to fill in. Ready to have a good week in golf. It's kind of still nice to have golf going, and I think these early season events are because the DFS are way more fun to sweat and watch, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And, last week it was crazy. The cut line ended up being 5 under par. My main lineup I had at one point, I had everybody above the cut line. I was thinking, oh man, 6-6 is going to be great. Then had one guy bogey the second to last hole to finish at -4, and one guy bogey 2 of the last 3 holes to finish at -3. So a 6-6 became a 4 of 6 in a real hurry. But those are the breaks in DFS golf, and it just ended up not being my week. And I kind of, at the really, really high salary, I didn't play Sam Burns anyway. And nothing kind of worked together for me last week. But any luck your way last week?
Had a few good lineups. I mean, nothing, off the charts. I was underweight on Burns. Didn't have the right combos around him. Interestingly enough, I had probably what a bunch of stars and clubs had 25% Smalley, but with the wrong top end spin. So, but it, all in all, profitable week, but nothing too exciting.
Yeah, no big takedowns. Well, we'll try to get that this week, and we got a fun event this week. They're out in Vegas for the Shriners Children's Open, and this is a tournament where the cut line last year was 7 under par, which was a record. Now, obviously, they just moved the cut line from top 70 in ties to top 65 in ties starting a couple years ago. But that kind of skews things a little bit. It would have only been 6 under if they still took 70, but 7 under, it's just hard to see a cut line getting that high. So, getting as many guys through the cut as possible, definitely important this week. So, it's a course that yields plenty of birdies. What are you looking at as far as the course goes this week?
Obviously, I like ball strikers, which is, kind of a misterm. I mean, all the guys on the tour can hit the golf ball good, but the guys that are particularly really, really good iron players control their distance as well. You've seen through the history of this event, it's not necessarily, there's been a few guys that can bomb it, but, some lesser name, just kind of plotters play well here. So guys that can keep it in play. If the wind, there's only one year that the scoring was not really low, and so if the wind doesn't blow, these guys are going to tear it up. So guys that control their distances, decent course strategy, and can get hot with a putter. You don't necessarily have to be a great putter here, but definitely the hot putters win. When you look back at some of the past winners, there's been some good putters, but there's also been some guys that was their week with the putter.
Yep, and that'll happen in these events. These shootout type events. You get hot with the flat stick, then it can take you a long way. You're going to have to make some birdies to win this tournament. So one of those weeks where you get hot with a putter certainly helps in that respect. And just looking at guys that are going to give themselves plenty of birdie opportunities, plenty of looks. This is a course that generally plays like a resort style course for these PGA Tour guys. So, it's going to be all right there in front of them. Any other takeaways from last week as far as the tournament goes? Obviously, we had a 5 under par cut line last week and a really low winning score, kind of like we're going to see this week. But anything else that surprised you as far as contenders or guys who missed the cut? I know there, were some popular names that ended up falling a stroke or two short. But anything else as a takeaway from last week?
I think it's a good time here to really dive in. There's so many the quality of golf from the guys that haven't made a name for themselves yet to the mid range is not that there's not much difference, right? So it's a good time to sort of to dive in and find out about a player and figure out there's some guys down there that you can maybe be ahead of as far as getting in some value from them before they become if they're going to have a good start to the year. So I mean there's just so much talent out there. Don't be afraid to play some guys that you've never heard of. Go in and do a little research on them. There's so many. I'm in the golf business, so I teach golf full time, and these college kids are so much more prepared than ever. I mean, they practice and play like professionals from age 12 on, so they're ready. When they get out there, there's not a learning curve. It's not like other sports, right? And they know sometimes their window, they have to take advantage of it, right? Because the line between success and failure, Corn Ferry Tour to PGA Tour is really small. I mean, look at the Monday qualifying sheet every week. I mean, Benny on Monday qualified. I tried to Monday qualify last week, and he was on tour, very successfully on tour. Many of us would argue that, maybe he should have been a little bit better. But so don't be afraid to take a dive on a player that, you may not have heard of yet. Dig in a little bit.
Yeah, and you mentioned about those thin lines. I mean, you read the stories about some of these guys that missed their PGA Tour card by one stroke, and it just it makes things so much difficult trying to get back there and make that life on the PGA Tour and just grinding through the the mini tours and the Q school and all that. Like missing out by a stroke or two, I can't imagine. But
I was at a seminar this last week watching a guy by the name of Ryan Gibson. He's from Australia, good ball striker. He's got some status on tour. Watch him hit balls for like an hour. He hits it like 300 in the air. He had a Monday qualify this week. He shoots 64 and misses it by one. Makes 9 birdies, a couple bogeys, and an eagle, I think, something like that. But I mean, that's pretty good golf, right? So I mean, there's plenty of these guys that can go out there. They just need a chance.
Yep, for sure. And sometimes you just take that one big chance and you run with it. And other guys, you grind and you get close, and it's just it's tough. It's one of the toughest sports to make it in. But makes us appreciate the guys that are there and did make it even more. So with that, let's go ahead and dig into this week. We mentioned, there's going to be birdies here. There's going to be scoring. Going to try to have to get as many guys through the cut as you can. And we've got a decent field this week. Certainly a stronger field than what we saw for last week's event. We've got quite a few names at the top. We've got 6 above 10K on DraftKings. Brooks Koepka teeing it up this week, 2 weeks after the Ryder Cup. Sam Burns back there and, seems to be a fixture in that high-end range now. So get used to seeing him up there. We've got Hovland, Answer, Webb, and Will Zalatoris. So pretty solid collection of golfers above 10K this week. Who are a couple of your favorites up there?
Well, first of all, I got a question for you.
Sure.
You hear the news today. Who do you like, Brooks or Bryson?
Yeah, right. That's really tough. I mean, when it gets down to it, if he's motivated and treats it like he would a major, I think I'd take Brooks. But Bryson's shut up some of the haters the last couple weeks with the long drive stuff and the Ryder Cup play. So it's going to be really, really interesting. And of course, maybe they were just building up for this all along. Who knows? But it'll be interesting. Give me right now, if you to put odds out there right now, I'd probably just take whoever's listed as an underdog, to be honest.
12 holes, so anything can happen, right?
Yeah, which is weird. Why 12 holes?
Maybe for TV, I don't
Fit
know.
it into some type of window or something.
Right, or maybe just logistically where they put the cameras in the golf, being able to do different things. Who knows? It should be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, not a ton of interest in Brooks, and not because he's not a talented golfer, but with the price tag that high, it's what does he cost, and then also what does your roster look like with him on there? So you can certainly make a case for him winning any week, In fact, he almost won here in 2017, and it wasn't for my friend Rob Pamplin edging him out. So great player. Sam Burns, I typically don't play someone the week after winning, but obviously playing some of his best golf. But I really like Hovland at the top. His longtime coach, Jeff Smith, has been at Summerlin for a long time. Great ball striker, can get, as hot as anybody, can make a ton of birdies. Really worked hard in the last year on changing up his short game, making it different from his full swing, learning how to control loft around the green. So that's something that this golf course, when you miss a green, the greens can be a little bit tricky. They can be kind of firm and tricky around as far as pace and landing spot. So you've got to look at guys that can scramble a little bit. And I think that's a much improved part of Hovland's game. I like Hovland and Webb Simpson the most. Probably will have some answer. It's hard not to like a little bit of Will. Zalatoris, a little disappointed that he couldn't follow last week's awesome Friday up. But I mean, it's going to be just a matter of time before he wins. I just think if you were a betting man, you would just kind of keep punching that ticket as long as the price is still pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's one of the safest options there. I tagged him up this week. So I like Hovland and Zalatoris are the two guys that I tagged up. So I agree. I think those two are my favorite. Hovland, I like the upside. He's my pick to win here. I just think, after the stress of the Ryder Cup and kind of the laid back nature of this event, I think that, Hovland will take a liking to that and go low this week. So, and you could put, Answer and Webb in there as safe plays really too. And then that kind of shows in our ownership. I mean, we've got Hovland, Answer, Webb, and Zalatoris is the highest owned, and less so with Koepka and Burns. And I didn't play Burns last week, so I'm certainly not playing him this week. But he can go ahead and do me dirty 2 weeks in a row if he wants to. With the way he's capable of playing, he's certainly showcased that upside over the last 6-8 months, and kudos to him for the way he's played. And even after that hiccup there for a while, he's bounced back like nothing ever happened. So Hovland and Zalatoris, my two favorites. I'm with you on that as well. Anything else you want to mention on that top group of guys?
So do you think there's any extra motivation by the Ryder Cup snubs? Simpson, Reed, play well. I mean, obviously Simpson's just excellent course history, right? Typical kind of golf course for him. He's not going to overpower anything. So this is right in his wheelhouse, just keep it in play, create as many opportunities, hope you're converting. I mean, he hasn't finished, outside of the top 30 in the last 5 starts, right? He's gained almost 32 shots tee to green. So he's a guy that if you were playing single entry or cash games, I would feel pretty comfortable starting him.
I would too. I think so. Yeah. And I don't know if the Ryder Cup snub motivates him. I mean, Reed can use anything as a slight. So, if he does, more power to him there. But, I think Webb is certainly a great play just on his own merits. So wouldn't be surprised if he went out and proved a point this week as well. As we move into the 9K options, options are a little fewer and far between in here. In fact, we've only got 7 golfers in the 9Ks. Usually there's maybe a handful more. Looks like Scotty Scheffler is going to be the most popular there at 9,700. Of course, made his Ryder Cup debut a few weeks back. We've got Oosthuizen, Matsuyama, Harris English, Sung J M, Siwoo Kim rounding out that 9K range. And ownership really looks to be pretty spread out amongst those other guys outside of Scheffler. So are you eating the Scheffler chalk here?
No, I'm not a Scotty guy. Not that I don't like him. I think he's a very talented golfer. Pick and choose the courses for him. This is target golf. I just not at that price range, at his ownership, the guy that I'll just, it's kind of like you with Burns. If he gets me, then great. No biggie. Just move on another week. I'd rather have, somebody like probably Hideki a little bit more than Scheffler. Just Scheffler to me is one of those streaky scorers. He definitely, I feel like he's the kind of guy that can overpower a golf course. You don't really, all the par 5s are gettable here, but it's not one that you necessarily overpower. You've got to hit a lot of good golf shots and plod along and again, kind of the steady Eddie and make a lot of birdies. So especially if ownership is high on him, then not someone I'm looking to attack this week.
Yeah, I don't mind being underweight there at that ownership. I'm kind of with you, and I don't love this range as a whole. I think I like getting into 4 of those options in the 10K range that we talked about, I think are all strong plays, and I'd rather just try to get up there. But is there a guy or two that you do like in here?
So actually talked a little bit to Trey before we got on the air, ownership guy, and just asking kind of where do you think Kevin Na's ownership is going to go? I know it's early in the week, and he kind of mentioned that, he thought that people would, pivot down to Casey or go up to Hideki, kind of move some stuff around. Sung Jae getting some buzz. I really like Sung Jae. I mean, you look at compare him to Scotty, right? I think at this point in their career, Sung Jae is a more of a proven player. Scotty, if I'm correct, still doesn't have a win, and he's priced up there as somebody that can win. So, I mean, he's probably, in all intents and purposes, should be below 9K, right? So you're kind of building in some price based upon popularity. So, like Sung Jae, probably not going to take much English again. Another solid player in that price range, but I'd rather go down. I kind of like the guys below 9K a little bit better than those few stuck there at 9. But definitely have some interest in Hideki.
Yeah, I mean, I think Im is fine. I think Hideki is fine. They're pretty safe, but at that point, again, either to me, you're going up into the 10Ks, or you're maybe trying to get a little bit cheaper, and maybe into the kind of the 8K range. So looks like, I know Noto's not here tonight, but he likes Paul Casey as his favorite in that kind of top end range at 8,900. He's got Casey tagged up in Lineup HQ as a core play. And again, if you are not a Rotogrinders premium subscriber, you can come check us out. We think you'll like it. You can choose single sport. If you just want PGA, you can get single sport premium and just sign up for PGA. If not, if you want multiple sports, you can get the combo package. That includes basically everything except NASCAR. So with football season rolling on right now, you can get all the tools for all the sports and see who some of our experts like. We tag up the players that we like within the lineup building software, and it's a pretty slick tool that we've developed over the years. Our producer can probably throw a promo link in the chat, or you can click on the link in the description and get $10 off your first month. So good deal. And while you're checking that out, give the show a thumbs up on the YouTube. We appreciate that very much. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you see, and we've got tons of video content basically every day this time of year. So other 8K options, I think Corey Connors is really interesting. The narrative with Connors is that he can't putt, and he definitely can't putt sometimes. But a lot of times his birdie putts are 7 feet, 9 feet, whereas other guys are 15, 16 feet. So that kind of neutralizes the putting a little bit. And he should be able to give himself plenty of looks on this course. Some people might look at the course history and say, no thanks to Connors, he can't putt. His course history is bad, but he's light years better now than he was 3 or 4 years ago, and he hasn't played here in a few years. So I like Connors and GPPs. Noto likes Casey. Who else are you looking at in kind of that mid to upper 8K range there?
Definitely like both Connors and Casey. I really like Cameron again this week. I just think Tringale's so close to winning. The guy's just been going back to about middle of the season last year, just been really solid. Good tee to green player. A few weeks ago he was playing and I can't remember if he made the cut or not, but he just started off awful. He made this huge number, and then it really impressed me. He just settled back in and started. Maybe it was on Saturday and just played some really good golf from there. I mean, he's one of these guys that's been out there a long time, had some decent success at this golf course. Relatively simple golf swing, repeats, can keep it in play, can definitely make a bunch of birdies. So someone that I like. I mean, I think that with so many options there, right, you're going to see ownership kind of spread out. I mean, Adam Scott's still going to garner some interest, right? Everybody likes Neiman, typically in the DFS world. I would like Tringale a lot, and I played a lot of Matthew Wolf last week, and I'll be on that again. He's just a guy to me that's extremely talented, right? I mean, you got to consider he took time off last year for personal reasons, and so some people will attribute that to injury, maybe a little bit, but I mean, the guy is just all he's done is win at every level, right? And we're talking about a kid that, I mean, in my world, that golf swing's not one that he would ever teach anybody, right? Highly successful, and that can hit it just as good as anybody, right? So another birdie maker, right? So if you want to go a guy that can have a lot outside of that price, I really like Matthew Wolff.
And he's got some good results here too. And on these courses where you can make a lot of birdies, these tend to be the ones where he plays well. So, and I was, I was off him for a long time with all those issues he was having, and I think it was pretty clear that for whatever reason, personal injury, whatever it was, it's clear that he needed the time away, and it helped him. He's been a lot better since he came back. He's looked a lot better. There was a time there where it was just off the rails for him. So don't mind getting some Wolff at 8,200. He is going to be somewhat popular though this week. People see that course history, and I think that his ownership will get up there a little bit. So I don't mind Neiman. Again, we haven't seen the upside as much from Neiman. He only missed one cut last year, but just didn't really show that ceiling. And his stats are still fine. Just a matter of putting all 4 rounds together to get that top finish. And I think one's coming sooner rather than later. So a pretty loaded range here. I mean, you mentioned quite a few guys, Tringali. Anything else in the 8K range? Hoffman. You kind of hinted at Reed earlier, Jason Kokrak, maybe anybody else we missed in there.
None that I can think of. I mean, you can make a case for any of these guys. It's just, again, what do they cost in terms of roster construction, and do they have enough upside to pay off their price, in that range? I think you still have to have somebody there that you think can really potentially win the golf tournament from 8K and up.
For sure. And once you get below that, you can start kind of focusing on cut makers a little bit. I don't mind playing for some safer options this week, particularly as you get lower, just because anybody who makes the cut is going to be scoring fantasy points, and it's going to be a big detriment if you've got guys missing the cut this week. So don't be afraid to take some safe players as we kind of look into that 7K range here briefly. Mito Pereira is the obvious one. Like he just continues to post steady performances. I think 31st last week, which is fine. And his price dropped again down to 7,800 on DraftKings. So it's tough for me to ignore him at 7.8K. But we've got guys like Streelman. Aaron Wise was pretty popular last week. McNeely has garnered some ownership of late. You've got Harmon, Gooch in here. So these are guys that have been popular in these weaker field events. And now they're pretty cheap in an event that's got a little bit of a stronger field. So who are a few of your 7,600 to 8K favorites?
So another, I like Aaron Wise this week. He's another Jeff Smith protege. Jeff Smith is one of the more famous teaching pros around. He teaches Hovland, Aaron Wise, Patrick Rogers, Scott Piercy, a couple of younger guys. So, and Jeff Smith is historically been the director of instruction at TP Summerlin. So Aaron's gotten a lot of time out there, right? So, and these college guys too, they play a lot of golf that's similar to this week, right? Target golf. Golf courses are not set up super hard. They're used to kind of going low. So really like Aaron Wise. I think he's someone that showed some flash early, right? Then struggled kind of maybe that sophomore slump, but very talented golfer. He's gained almost 14 and a half shots here in the last 5 starts of this event. And his last 5 tournaments, he's also gained about 16 shots. So he's playing well, good course history. I really like him. I would not be afraid to mix in a little Maverick McNeely, another guy that I think is long-term. I think we're going to see this kid win. Another great college player, kind of struggling to find his way out on tour. Switched coaches shortly after getting on tour and now works with Butch. And I just think the kid's got a ton of potential. And this would be, the type of golf course he grew up playing, right? A lot of target golf, good iron player, just needs to get hot with his putter.
We did have some questions in the YouTube chat. I missed them earlier. Still trying to get everything loaded up on my new machine here. So, somebody mentioned about Kevin Na at least withdrawing before Thursday. That's good news for those that would have played him. Kevin Na is out of the field, and we have him out of lineup HQ. Who else withdrew? I feel like you mentioned it earlier in our chat. Say again. Brendan Todd. Yeah, Brendan Todd was the other one that withdrew. So if you made lineups early, make sure that that you take Na or Brendan Todd out of your lineups if you had one of them in there. Jared McDowell asked, Would you even play cash games this week with a cut at 5 to 7 under? That would seem to be highly variant, even for the usual cut makers. That's a fair point. We saw guys like Adam Schenk and several others finish at -4 last week, but I'm not sure. I don't play a lot of cash games anyway. Do you, in general? Do you play cash games for golf?
I have, but don't currently. I will say that, um, projections play a big, a lot of people will play cash games somewhat casually and they'll golf for projections. So if you're going to play cash games, don't be afraid to pivot. There's projections for golf are always very, very fragile, right? So, mix in your cash game with some single entry stuff. I think that it's, there's always an edge out there to play some cash games. Just don't feel like you have to go on a week like this. It's not super safe. You just mix in guys that you think that have enough upside. If you're going to play that lineup 100 times, that you feel like it would pay off. Don't worry about making a mistake necessarily.
Yeah, for sure. Some people like to split up their cash game lineups, so I wouldn't mind doing that this week. But it's definitely a struggle if you end up getting only 3 or 4 guys through the cut this week. So, all right, let's keep moving. Any other thoughts on this kind of mid 7K range as we get down to about 7,500? Not a whole lot of chalk in here. Mito is going to be chalk. McNeely will be a little popular, but below that, we don't have anybody else left in the field projected for double-digit ownership as of right now. Obviously, that could change, but lots of players in that 6, 7, 8% range. Noto's boy Brian Harmon is playing this week. You've got Taylor Gooch, Leishman, Patton Kazire, Ricky Fowler all the way down at 7,300. It just shocks me to see him all the way down there, but that's what he's earned based on his performance over the last couple of years. Some of your favorite kind of mid to lower 7K plays.
So maybe some interest in Leishman, world-class player, lives in the States, streaky ball striker, right? Not the typical golf course that I would consider playing Leishman on. But, again, that talent long-term at that price, he's making a start here for the first time. So there's got to be some reason to that, right? You think about this season, they even call it the wraparound season anymore. Is it just the fall?
I know that's the term that I use, but I don't know if they do anymore.
It's opportunity, right? Whether you're a young guy or you're an established player, there's a lot on the line. Somebody like Mark Leishman, he wants to get the year started off well. He's got President's Cup this year, right? As he gets older, it's more and more important that these guys, seize every opportunity, right? Look at Ricky Fowler. He was, a top player in the world. And he's not going to get into a bunch of events this year, that he might have otherwise gotten into. So yeah, I really like Leishman. I wouldn't mind taking a stab or two on Ryan Palmer, another guy that, can get hot with the putter, has played this event enough, so he knows the golf course. And if we're going anywhere below that, I think another guy making his first time start here that's a proven winner on tour would be Kisner. At 7,400, that just seems low for a guy that, would it surprise anybody to see Kevin Kisner win an event like this out of nowhere, right? Kind of like Kevin Na. Not really a long player, but just a good iron player, streaky putter. Kevin Na is a better putter than Kisner, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, those are the types of players. Again, we talked about it earlier in the show. You get hot with the flat stick and get it rolling. And, if you looked at last week's leaderboard on like Friday afternoon, it was, 3 or 4 guys that a lot of casual people would just never heard of, didn't even know, who's this Buckley guy that's up there at the top. And that sometimes happens in these events, these shootout type events. It's the great equalizer. You just the John Deere Classic is my event kind of around my neck of the woods, and you always see guys. Michael Kim won the John Deere Classic and then missed like 18 cuts in a row after that. Golf is a weird sport. Brendan Todd missed 20 some odd cuts in a row one time and then came back a couple years ago and was one of the most consistent cut makers on tour. So golf's a weird game. It's a mental game, and guys go through ups and downs. And these kind of Birdie Fest events, don't be afraid to go off the radar a little bit, especially with some of your GPP builds. Seamus Power is a guy I like a lot. Was a chalk kind of value last week. Missed the cut by a couple strokes. and now nobody's going to play him this week. Those are the kind of guys that, I mean, this is a guy that posted 6 top 20s in a row in the summer, won an alternate field event, and these are the types of events he tends to play well at. So I don't mind going back to him after last week's kind of letdown when he was chalky. Any of the recent kind of Corn Ferry Tour grads that I haven't talked to you about these guys yet. So any of them that stick out to you as potential ones that we want to kind of invest in while they're still pretty cheap?
To be honest, I'm still kind of learning a little bit. I played some Alex Smalley last week.
He Monday qualified for this event as well,
Yeah,
so he'll be in the field.
Obviously extremely talented. Kind of as we get in that lower price range, I like some of the guys that are retreads that have been down and back and forth, and now they're here again, and maybe they're ready, right? Like a Jaeger, someone like that, that is obviously motivated to play some pretty good golf. But yeah, I mean, I think you can make a case for any of these guys. I mean, you just look down at some of this pricing down here. I mean, you look proven tour winners, and I know the line between success and failure in golf is really small, but you've got Lucas Glover at $7K. You've got Ian
And
Poulter.
Glover's played well here too.
Correct. Course history. I mean, I think he's gained almost 30 shots tee to green in his last 5 starts of this event. Another guy, right? Always a good iron player, good driver of the golf ball. It's whether or not he makes any putts, right? And so target golf, anytime you're playing stadium course type kind of target golf, he's going to have a lot of opportunities, just whether or not he converts. Francisco Molinari. I mean, I'm bullish on him in the long term. I just think that a little bit of victim of the whole COVID and falling behind and not traveling and not playing, right? Losing some momentum. He's a guy that was at the top of his game. Arguably, if he didn't hit a little better shot on at the Masters, he would have won that event, right? So I mean, you've got a guy that's a perfect fit for this golf course, right? Good iron player, probably hungry to get back. I mean, that's another Ryder Cup snub right there. So definitely like those types of guys more than I do I'll dabble a little bit in some of the lesser known Corn Ferry guys. If you're building, I would kind of make a rule to not have more than 2 of those in a lineup. Just have one Corn Ferry guy. There's going to be some volatility there, and there's enough good players that are proven tour players that you can mix in.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, and I like Taylor Moore. I'm probably a little more partial to him than some of the others. He played well last week, and it seems to be the guy that might have the most immediate upside. But he's more expensive than somebody like Ian Poulter and Luke List and Gim and some of these guys that we've been playing for months now. So in years, in the case of Poulter, Poulter grades out really well in our projections for what it's worth on DraftKings at $7K. He's comparatively a little more expensive on FanDuel and Yahoo, but I mean, it just goes to show you everyone's going to be enamored with the new names and faces, and some of them justifiably so. But going with some of the guys that we know long term, certainly no harm in that at lower ownership as well. Anybody else you want to touch on kind of at or above 7,000?
Nope. Maybe Ryan Moore. I mean, a guy who's historically played this type of golf course well, right? Vegas guy, lives in the area, has had success at this event. Has gained almost 20 shots tee to green in his last 5 starts. So I'm another guy that is on the second half of his career, getting closer to thinking about being on the Champions Tour than he is probably winning on the PGA Tour, right? But a guy that, I mean, could certainly get it done there. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind some Ryan Moore.
Yeah, somebody in the chat was mentioning Higo, who was pretty popular when he first started playing more in the States. Had that incredible run, on the Euro Tour and into U.S. soil for a few months. But, when the form fades a bit, then the ownership goes with it. And that's just recency bias is certainly a thing. So, again, if you like some of these guys, shootout event, little unpredictable, don't be afraid to take some shots on them. So we're not going to do a guess the golfer this week with my computer issues. We didn't have time to put that together before the show, but we'll give away some goodies next week. And also don't hesitate to check out Prize Picks, prizepicks.com, or download the app. They're a great sponsor of the show. Usually put 2 or 3 over under finishing position picks out there for prize picks. And again, didn't get a chance to do that before the show tonight for this week. But use promo code Grinders and get a deposit bonus on your first deposit, 100% up to $100. So promo code Grinders, prizepicks.com, pretty cool interface. And really, I mean, you can do over under longest drive. Lots of good stuff going on over there. So check them out. We'll get back on the individual picks and throwing some of those out there next week. But yeah, just a little shout out for this week. So, all right, let's go to under 7K, the value plays. We kind of already touched on a few of these, but we'll throw a couple more names out there before we get out of here. Adam Schenk, again, another guy I mentioned earlier, is popular last week. Missed the cut, but generally a very consistent cut maker. Don't mind taking him in an event like this, but not a lot of ownership going to the sub 7K players because there's so many guys like right around 7,000 or above that's where a lot of people are going to go. So who are a couple of your favorite kind of punt level plays this week?
Upside, kind of above that 6,500. I like Harry Higgs. Always an interesting follower on Twitter. If you, a guy that can definitely go low. Good ball striker. Played well in his last few starts on tour. I wouldn't mind having. I think you were a little bit interested last week and had some shares. Probably the Postman. It's another guy.
Yeah, he was one of the guys in my main lineup that bogeyed 2 of the last 3 to miss the cut. So
kind of in that. Looking at the guys that really need to play well early in the season, right? He's there and kind of another guy, one on tour, good ball strikers, just a matter again, can he put it all together? He's had a top 5 at this event, so another guy that I sort of like. I really kind of in that range though, it's either kind of above that or I'm going to go way below, and I wouldn't be afraid to take a stab on any of these guys. I mean, there's likely to make the cut or miss the cut as somebody at 7,500, right? I mean, you're gaining a lot of savings. So if it allows you to get somebody a little bit higher in, don't be afraid. Now, I wouldn't want 2 of them in my lineup for sure. But, to me that with the exception of a few, names that you can look at and say these guys are pretty poor form or unproven, there's a lot of options here. Rory Sabatini would be another one, right? The type of golf course that you could see him playing well at. Good iron player, streaky putter, target golf. So,
yeah, I like some of those guys. Again, the streaky players down here don't mind. I don't mind, going after some upside here because you'll see guys like Buckley, just come out of nowhere. Keith Mitchell's a guy that's done it quite a few times. I have driven the Hank Lebioda train into several walls over the course of the last 3 or 4 months. I'll probably drive it into another one this week. He's gonna pay off one of these weeks, but I feel a little bit comforted knowing that TJ has tagged him up as a value, so we can try to knock the wall down together. But these are guys that we've seen upside from them, and we've seen upside from them in the not too recent past. So don't be afraid, like I said, to take some shots on these guys. Let's see. I'm just kind of scrolling through, looking to see if there's any other names. Anybody else on your radar before we duck out of here?
If you're going to go super low on the pricing grid, I wouldn't mind having a few shares of like a William McGirt or Sung Kang. I mean, you're not your household names, but McGirt is starting to play well. He's been injured for a long time. Now he's getting back and playing. He's, a guy that kind of your savvy veteran, knows what a seasoned professional. These are big events for him, to get back in and get his number up so he can play in and more stuff. Sung Kang's a George Gankus guy, kind of guy that, again, like if he hauls off and wins a week like this, you're going to go, well, maybe I should have seen that coming. Here's a guy that, when he plays well, he plays really well, right? And so these guys, you're not looking for them to make a cut and finish T40. You're looking for their upside. Can they get up there and challenge? And I think that's the question you should ask yourself when you're picking from these guys here. Can some of these guys still win? Can they get in that top 5 and win? And Sung Kang's a guy that has definitely, when he's played well, he plays really well. So I kind of like those kind of options down at the bottom.
Yeah, boomer bust kind of golfers. That's probably not what you're building in your cash games, but in GPPs, I like the upside. with some of those plays as well. And so get ready for some birdies. You'll see people tilting on social media when their players don't birdie, the first 2 holes, just because the cut was 7 under here last year. So go low or go home will be the narrative in play this week. So with that, we're going to go ahead and put a bow on the show for this week, and the tour will stay in Vegas next week for the CJ Cup at Summit Golf Club. So we will be back next week for that. Again, sign up for Rotogrinders Premium. Give us a try. We think you'll like it. Single sport, if you just want PGA or our combo package, you can get $10 off your first month with the link in the chat or in the description. And once again, we thank Han Dizzle, aka Jacob Horton, for joining us this week, and our producer Steve, working hard behind the scenes for us. And also, putting up with a little bit of a delay with me getting everything set up and ready to go here on my new machine, which made it through the show. So we're one crisis averted here this evening. So for Steve, for Jacob, I'm Justin. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Good luck in all your DFS contests for the Shriners Open, and we'll see you next week for the CJ Cup. Take care.